In Brazil, Bolsonaro supporters stormed the nation's Congress, the Supreme Court and the Planalto Palace, seat of the Brazilian government. In Bolivia, the National Direction of Penitentiary regime said to be preparing a report for the Inter-American Commission of Human Rights related to the detention of Luis Fernando Camacho. And in the United Kingdom, railway workers continue with protest actions after several days of strike. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Brazil, Bolsonaro supporters stormed the nation's Congress, the Supreme Court and the Planalto Palace, the seat of the Brazilian government. Images published by local media and social media show groups of demonstrators with Brazilian flags entering public buildings and causing damage. The assaulted facilities include the Palace of Planalto, the seat of the executive power, and the Palace of the Supreme Federal Court. The raiders reject the election results that led Luis Fernando da Silva to the presidency. All this comes exactly a week after President Lula's inauguration ceremony. Currently, Lula is in Sao Paulo, visiting an area affected by weather events. On Twitter, Colombian President Gustavo Petro wrote, "All my solidarity to President Lula and to the people of Brazil. Fascism decides to strike. The right wing has not been able to maintain the pact of nonviolence. The OAS must urgently meet if it wants to continue to exist as an institution and implement the democratic charter." Other reactions on Twitter, Cuba's Foreign Affairs Minister said Cuba strongly rejects the alarming events and violent acts in Brazil and expresses its solidarity with the democratically elected government of that brotherly nation, led by President Lula da Silva. Cuba calls for the will of the Brazilian people to be respected. Also, the pro-temporary presidency of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States expresses support for the government of Luis Fernando da Silva, elected by the people of Brazil, and rejects violent actions against Brazilian democratic institutions. On Sunday, Bolivian National Direction of the Penitentiary regime informed that it is preparing a report for the Inter-American Commission of Human Rights related to the detention of Luis Fernando Camacho. The National Director of the entity, Juan Carlos Limpias, reported that after receiving the request from the regional body, they will duly report on the requirements raised through precautionary measures, which is a protection mechanism of the IACHR. The Bolivian state will provide detailed information certifying that they respect the rights and guarantees of Luis Fernando Camacho, arrested for his participation in the 2019 coup d'etat. In Bolivia this Saturday, Carolina Rivera, daughter of former de facto President Yanin Áñez, confirmed that Governor Luis Fernando Camacho was a member of that government. In the midst of the process that follows the former civic officer of Santa Cruz and that currently keeps him in a prison in La Paz, Áñez's daughter linked him even with the choice of the members of the executive cabinet. Luis Fernando Camacho has tried to disassociate himself from the acts committed during the coup d'etat, despite the evidence that compromises him. Rivera also stated that her mother did not have the opportunity to choose. On Saturday, 16 people were injured in the Peruvian city of Juliaca during the fourth-day popular protest against the government of Dina Boluarte. In this southern part of the Puno region, protests demanding the advance of elections, Boluarte's resignation, and the closing of the Congress have intensified. Due to these mobilizations, more than 60 highways have been blocked. The police have repressed demonstrators, resulting in 16 people injured, as informed by the head of Juliaca's Ombudsman's Office, Nibardo Enriquez, who also detailed that those affected are receiving medical care. The demonstrations broke out on December 7th after Boluarte, then vice president, took over the government from former President Pedro Castillo. International associations and organizations devoted to overseeing the free exercise of journalism call on the Peruvian government to investigate the attack on photojournalist Aldair Mejia. As reported, the international news correspondent was injured while covering a demonstration in Juliaca, in the south of the country. International associations and organizations are asking Dina Boluarte's government to identify and punish those responsible for the aggression and to stop the attack against press workers. The photojournalist said that hours before the attack, he had been threatened by police officials.
The demonstration started right at 10 a.m. in the morning, and I was just walking when I saw two police officers who came running. I thought they were just going to arrest someone who was there, but one of them came and pushed me, and then I fell on the sidewalk, on the ground. And I told them that I was a journalist, and they told me that I was a rebel. I'm not a rebel, actually, I'm a correspondent. And they grabbed my credential as if they wanted to break it.
Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back from the South. The organization Justice and Solidarity in Haiti has condemned the high rates of prolonged pretrial detention in the country, which currently exceeds 83%. The human rights defense platform denounces the high levels of corruption in the courts of first instance and other sections of the administration of justice that have made freedom the exception and not the norm. They point out that money or visibility in the media are the only possibility of obtaining fair treatment. According to data from the Penitentiary Administration, out of 11,718 detainees, only 1,935 have been sentenced. The rest are waiting for a judge's decision, up to 10 years in some cases. The President of the United States, Joe Biden, will make his first visit to the Mexican border this Sunday to address migration security, hours before leaving to meet with the Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. The White House informed that the U.S. leader will be in the Texas town of El Paso, where he will address border control operations and meet with local officials and workers before traveling to Mexico. Washington also added that upon his arrival in Mexico City, Biden will address the North American Leaders Summit, where he meets his counterparts from Mexico and Canada. In the United States, also, several hundred people marched on Saturday through the streets of Texas town of El Paso in support of a group of migrants at the Mexican border. According to a local media, some 300 migrants have taken shelter on the sidewalks in the front of the Church of the Sacred Heart, some of them afraid to seek more formal shelters, say activists, in the midst of new restrictions aimed at ending illegal border crossings. In this context, the protesters rallied while singing, "You are not alone," to the migrants. This occurs before the first political visit of the U.S. President to the southern border wall in the midst of an atmosphere of fear and tension after the continuous deportations of migrants to Mexico. Railway workers in the United Kingdom continue with protest actions on Saturday after several days of strike by the country's transport workers. The strike suspended the operation of British railway services by more than 80%. Closing most of Wales, Scotland, one of the largest unions in the United Kingdom, said that on January 23rd, the ambulance staff will join the protest actions to demand better salaries. The United Kingdom government assured that it plans to introduce legislation in order to allow public services operate with a minimum level of security during strikes in recent months. The United Kingdom has suffered one of its worst waves of strikes after more than a decade without wage increases and an inflation increase of more than 10%. The German government urged the population to continue carrying out energy-saving measures. Germany's Federal Network Agency claimed that the country has sufficient supplies for the rest of winter season. They also highlighted that the nation used 14% less gas than in 2021, mainly due to the population's energy-saving efforts. The gas agency warned that saving measures should continue because at the end of this winter season, storage tanks will have about 50% of the reserve and the next season could be colder. It also stated that China's consumption of gas could recover by increasing world demand and prices. Besides, it warned that damage to Europe's gas infrastructure could endanger the region. Heavy rains have flooded several streets in the coastal city of Oporto in northern Portugal. The storm on the Atlantic coast has left no victims, but the material damage is significant. The touristic streets of the city have been completely flooded, affecting houses, commercial establishments, and even the subway network that has been interrupted. The Meteorological Services forecast another similar day for Sunday, therefore, the orange alert will be enforced in the area. In the United States, more than 500,000 people remain without power due to a storm in northern part of California. According to authorities, a total of 556,374 people are without power as of Thursday, January 5th. This due to bad weather, heavy snowfalls, rains, and floods following the arrival of a storm. The U.S. West Coast was also hit since December 27th by a snowstorm, killing a 2-year-old boy in Sonoma County and causing damage to infrastructure due to downed trees. Authorities advise citizens to take necessary precautions while work continues to restore power. A severe cold weather wave hit New Delhi on Sunday as it registered a minimum temperature of 1.9 degrees Celsius, the lowest since January 2021. According to the South Asian nation's meteorological department, a dense blanket of fog covered northwest India and the bordering areas of central and eastern India. This affected the movement of road, rail, and air traffic. Flights scheduled for Sunday morning were delayed, as well as rail travel due to the blinding fog. Experts warn that cold conditions will persist in northwestern parts of the country until January 10th. More news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the South. In China, authorities report normality and fluidity in the first day of the opening of borders and the end of the zero-COVID policy. As of this Sunday, COVID-19 was downgraded to Category B. According to the law on the prevention and treatment of infectious diseases, COVID-19 is no longer a Category A disease and therefore does not require quarantine. Yua Jinhua, Director of the General Administration of Customs, inspected the first group of passengers attesting to the normal functioning of the operations. In less than 2 hours, more than 300 passengers passed all border controls successfully. In China, during the vacation season, a truck lost control, causing an accident that left 19 people dead and 22 injured in Jiangxi province. Local media informed about the terrible traffic accident in Nanshan County so far. The accident caused 19 deaths and 22 injured. Authorities report that the circumstances that produced this incident are under thorough investigation by the relevant security forces. The accident occurred in the early hours of the morning when a truck ran over a funeral procession almost completely. The authorities appealed to the awareness of drivers in this season. More than 10,000 people gathered in Tel Aviv, the capital of Israel, to protest against the new far-right cabinet of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The demonstrators rejected what they have described as a coup d'etat against the judiciary, based on a reform plan that includes a measure that allows the annulment of Supreme Court decisions on the repeal of law or cabinet decisions, counting only on the votes of a simple majority. According to the parliamentarians and leftist movements that call for the protest, if this reform is approved, the executive could exercise control over the judiciary. The Iranian Space Agency launched a strategic program plan for the next 10 years. According to the agency, Iran plans to become the regional leader in the development of space technologies and space launch services with the implementation of this program. President Sayed Ebrahim Raisi highly praised the advantages and the all-favorable conditions to boost this industry. Raisi has considered this as one of the driving and high investment sectors for the country and stated the fast progress in this field has exposed the failure of Western sanctions to isolate the Islamic Republic. And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For telesur English, I'm Luis Fernando Camacho. Thank you for watching.